All right, this is a quick presentation on writing styles, tools to help you become a better writer. The first thing I've given you is a link to the Academic Resource Center that is right here at the bottom. So if you need any assistance, any advice on writing, it has uh, writing style guides, all that good stuff. That is a resource for you to use. Okay, let's talk about citing your sources just briefly here. When we cite our sources, we need to make sure that we're actually in our text citing the source. So if we're saying the history of language is a form of communication, dates back to thousands of years, however, our textbook says, and then we put in quotes what the textbook says, that's not quite going to cut it. We don't say our textbook because your reader doesn't actually have any idea what book it is that you are referencing, or if you're saying our lecture says. Always, it's best to assume that your reader is not a specific person who knows a certain set of information, but think of your reader as being much broader in context. And so what information are they going to need in order to go and check your references and do their own research further? Okay, so if we keep going on this, we see that we have an MLA format example that I've given you, with the works cited in the text and then in a works cited section. I've also included an APA format example for you. Keep going there. And then I've included an example of footnotes, what footnotes might look like. So these are in-text citations here, and then you have to, of course, include that full citation in a works cited section. And this is what that would look like if you were using footnotes instead of full in-text citations, where you give, usually the author's name, the page number, etc. And so we can see that we've used tiny numbers here, and these are 3 different examples of how you can do that. So make sure that you review this. If you have any questions, be sure to ask your instructor. Let's talk a little bit about point of view or tone. I've included a Wikipedia page. While I don't recommend Wikipedia for research, it is a good jumping off point to get you started on where to go to research. So I do use it sometimes for, informational things like this. So let's talk about first person point of view. This is our first person perspective. This is when we use I, me, my. So if you say, I believe that visual culture is a pointless and excessive discipline to study, of course I'm being ironic here, then you're referencing yourself. This is first person narrative voice. This is appropriate for discussion boards and for journals, for blog entries, those types of things, but this is not appropriate for formal academic papers. One of the reasons is, in a formal paper, we're trying to take the opinion side out a little bit and really focus on facts, focus on research and support. So even if you're writing something about something like art that is quite subjective in nature, if we just say, well, I really like this painting, you don't have to validate opinions. They're opinions. But if you say, this is an excellent painting because, and then you have to give supporting evidence, you're telling your reader a lot more. This is why we prefer, and we actually, a lot of times instructors will mark you down if in formal academic papers you use first person narrative voice or perspective. Second person point of view or perspective is when you use you or your. You may agree that visual culture is a pointless and excessive discipline to study. This is appropriate for reviews, but it's typically not recommended for formal writing just because we want to have a more formal quality. You're not singling out anyone particularly. It's okay to just use your judgment, but we really recommend that you use third person point of view or narrative voice or perspective. One might say that visual culture is a pointless and excessive discipline to study. This whole one idea is that this is an opinion that could be out there, and now we're going to show you what this opinion, what the supporting evidence for this opinion might be. Okay, so again, it's going back to that idea of research, of supporting evidence. So this is appropriate for formal writing, for essays, for reviews, for articles, really for anything. When you're writing academically, you can use third person narrative perspective. Let's talk about titles and names and captions. Oh my, if I could tell you how many times I have to harp on students for these items, I would, if I had $1 for every time, I'd be wealthy. So all titles belong in quote or italics. preferably italics when we're talking about art or literature, really. So you see that the title of the textbook is in italics, the title of the painting is in quotation marks here. But really, I prefer, and when we write about art, we prefer that you use italics. Never refer to an artist, writer, etc. by their first name only. Leonardo da Vinci, but never just Leonardo. And actually, I should have changed this example because Leonardo is actually one of those very few, like Michelangelo, where we do kind of refer to them under this umbrella first name because they're so iconic. However, let's take Andy Warhol, for example. We can call him Andy Warhol. We can call him Warhol, but we never would just say Andy painted ... You're not friends with Andy Warhol. You guys aren't going to get lunch later. You're not on a first name basis. This goes back to that formal academic style. Whenever we're talking about an artist, an author, anyone that we're writing about, a theorist, we always use either their full name or their last name, never just the first name. All artwork should have captions. So whenever you're writing about art and you're including that image in your work, make sure that that image has a caption that has the artist's name, the artwork's name, the date it was created, the medium. So is it an oil on canvas? Is it bronze sculpture? Is it silver gelatin print? Whatever that medium might be. So the material that the artwork was made in, and the source. So the source would be, for this, in this context, the web address. So the full web address, so that your instructor could basically copy and paste that web address into their web browser and it would take them directly to the page where you sourced your image. That really helps us, and especially in an online class, to be able to make sure that you're getting your images from appropriate sources. Every once in a while, I've had a student write about an image and I've noticed, you know what, I'm very familiar with that work of art and what they've included. Maybe the colors are really off. Sometimes, you know, online sources, they can be quite different. I've even had where it's been the wrong painting before. So this really helps us to help you, for one, and it goes back to citing your sources, really, about giving credit where credit is due, giving all the information that your reader or viewer needs in order to go and research this material on their own. So here's an example. We have, you don't have to do last name, comma, first name. You could have just said Leonardo da Vinci. It's just how formal you want to be. It really doesn't matter when it comes to artwork. But then you can see that the title of the work is in italics. We have the year. In this case, a lot of artworks were done not just in one year. Sometimes an artist started it and then walked away from it and then finished it later on. For example, Da Vinci was notorious for never finishing work. This one he finally did 2 years later. This is oil on wood, so it's an oil painting on wood board, so that's the medium. And then the source is listed as well. And of course, I've broken my own rule by using Wikipedia here. And it's a link, so you can see that as an instructor, we'd be able to click on that and it would take us right directly to where you found your image. So just use this as your template for whenever you're writing about art in this course or any course and you need to give a caption for your image. Okay, let's talk about bad words, not the bad words you are thinking of. These are what I consider to be bad words in writing that students use way too much, that really have lost their meaning, that are not descriptive. So let's talk about get or got, getting, will get, etc. Okay? So here's an example. Many people get tired of the oversaturation and overstimulation of the mass media. Get is one of those action words that has really, we just use it way too much. And of course, you'll hear instructors use it when they're speaking informally all the time. And I use all these words all the time when I'm speaking, but I try to avoid them as much as I can when I'm writing. So what could we say instead of get that's maybe a little, sounds a little nicer, is a little more formal, that is a little more descriptive? Many people become tired of the oversaturation and overstimulation of the mass media. Sounds quite a bit better, doesn't it? Okay, let's look at another one. Thing or things. This is students' favorite word, I think. The thing is, what, you know, the things the artist uses, or there are many things in the painting that it's not descriptive. You're not really telling me anything, because what is a thing? A thing could be anything, right? So let's look at an example. Often artists are inspired by things that reflect everyday life in all its mundane glory. Okay, well, what do you really mean when you're saying things? I want you to kind of dig a little further. What is it I'm really trying to say? What if instead we said, often artists are inspired by cultural artifacts that reflect everyday life in all its mundane glory? Okay, you really told me something here. Okay, we've got one more that is, again, one students use all the time, and that is great. The great thing is, you use multiple ones. This painting is really great because, well, again, great is one of those oversaturated, overused words that really has lost its meaning a bit. I had a great experience visiting the Louvre in Paris. Well, that sounds quite boring. We don't, it doesn't really inspire us to understand what your experience was like. But if you said, I had an unforgettable experience visiting the Louvre in Paris, okay, we're getting a little more descriptive, a little more exciting. We can start to imagine. And it gives more of an impact, doesn't it? The word unforgettable opposed to the word great. I had a great time. I had an unforgettable time. I mean, tell me about your time visiting the Louvre in Paris. It kind of sparks our curiosity a bit more. So just don't do it. This would be the ultimate bad sentence in my book. The great thing about visual culture is that it gets you to really think about the world around you. Okay, so in my book, you've basically told me absolutely nothing here. But if you said the most positive aspect of visual culture is it opens your eyes to really think about the world around you. Now we're getting somewhere. We're getting a little more descriptive, a little more exciting in our writing. We're pulling our reader in. So avoid these bad words. Dig out your thesaurus. It's a writer's best friend. And let's start working on our writing a little bit, becoming more descriptive, building our vocabulary a bit. Okay, let's talk about the why and the how. In this class, it's very easy to talk about the who, the what, the when, the where. But the why and the how becomes quite difficult. So let's walk through some examples of what this might look like. So if you were just to give me the what, you might say something like this. In the film Cars, a sense of nostalgia is present. Well, great. You've told me what is going on and perhaps what you're going to talk about. But that's it. You haven't given me any more than that. So if we were to say the what and a little bit of the how here, we might say in the film Cars, a sense of nostalgia is present through the use of the historic U.S. highway Route 66. Excuse me. Okay, so you've told me a little bit of how the sense of nostalgia is present, but let's take this further. What if you gave me the what and the how, but now I want you to tell me why. In the film Cars, a sense of nostalgia is present through the use of historic U.S. highway Route 66. Radiator Springs, like many blink and you may miss it roadside towns, represent a slice of history, a history that American culture longs to hold on to. Okay, we're really starting to get somewhere now. You're giving me a lot more description in this sentence. Let's take it just one step further, okay? Now I'm really gonna get it. In the film Cars, a sense of nostalgia is present through the use of historic U.S. highway Route 66. Cool, we've established what and a little bit of the how, but we haven't said why yet. So we want to go into the why. Radiator Springs, like many blink and you may miss it roadside towns, represent a slice of history, a history that American culture longs to hold on to. And now let's get the clinch pin. Perhaps these towns hold a privileged place in our memory because we long for a simpler time, away from the hustle and bustle of contemporary consumer culture. Now I really get it. You've told me something. You've told me why, you've told me how, and now you've told me why as well. And that's what good writing is about. And when we write about art, we want to describe it. We want to give that who, what, when, where, and then we want to really dig in to the why and the how, because that's where the meat and potatoes are. The rest is just that appetizer course, okay? So I want you to really consider all these tools that I've given you in your writing. I promise they will help you become a better writer. Make sure that you go back to that first page and look on those writing resources if you need assistance. You can also use the Smart Tools link in your Blackboard course. It's always it's the tutoring online tab, and that will take you to Smart Thinking. Sorry, not Smart Tools, Smart Thinking. And you can have people from the university proofread your papers for grammar and spelling, all of that good stuff. So use the resources at your fingertips, especially if you're feeling a little insecure about your writing. You can always, most instructors are willing, if you finish your work a couple days early, if you can really get going on it, hey, can you look at this first before I actually submit it and tell me, am I on the right track? I love when students do that. It shows a lot of initiative. It shows that they care. So I hope this helped you out, and I hope you enjoy this course.